Just as Sophia Turner accepted the Rising Innovator Award, a familiar gaze pierced through the crowd, igniting memories of a love lost and a life shattered. Little did she know, the man who had once broken her heart was watching, ready to confront the past they had both tried so hard to forget. The room buzzed with an electric energy, a shimmering blend of opulence and exclusivity that only a venue like the Plaza Hotel could provide. The annual New York Tech Innovators Gala was in full swing, with industry titans, socialites, and a sprinkling of celebrities mingling under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. The rich aroma of saffron-infused risotto and dry-aged steak wafted through the air as waitstaff glided gracefully between tables adorned with crisp white linens. At the heart of the celebration stood Daniel Grant, not just any guest, but the star of the evening. Dressed in a meticulously tailored Tom Ford tuxedo, he radiated confidence as he laughed and exchanged pleasantries with Manhattan's elite. His dark, wavy hair was styled to perfection, and the gleaming Rolex Submariner on his wrist caught the light as he raised a glass of Dom Perignon, toasting to another record-breaking year for Grant Technologies. "Daniel, darling, they're waiting for your speech," Evelyn Harbor cooed, her voice smooth yet commanding. Evelyn, his fiancée, was everything the tabloids adored, graceful, glamorous, and always in control. Her shimmering Cartier necklace sparkled as she leaned in closer, framing her perfectly sculpted features with cascading platinum blonde waves. She wore a sleek black Prada gown, and her signature red lips curled into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Daniel flashed her a grin, more instinct than genuine warmth, before stepping up to the podium. A hush fell over the grand ballroom as he began, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen." His voice was deep and commanding, capturing the attention of the crowd. "When I founded Grant Technologies in a cramped garage in Ridgewood, New Jersey, I never imagined we'd be standing here tonight, celebrating yet another record-breaking year." Applause erupted from the audience, but as Daniel surveyed the sea of faces before him, a strange sensation crept over him. The accolades and admiration felt oddly hollow, like a distant echo of something he could no longer grasp. He attempted to shake off the feeling, continuing to weave a narrative of grit and ambition that the audience eagerly consumed. Evelyn beamed at him from the front row, her gaze flickering momentarily to photographers capturing their every move. Their lives were a carefully curated image, and she wouldn't allow a single crack to show. As the evening progressed, Daniel found himself at the bar, nursing a glass of Macallan 18. He watched Evelyn charm a group of investors across the room, her laughter ringing out like music. For a fleeting moment, his thoughts drifted back to another time, another woman, Sophia. Her name was a whisper in his mind, soft yet persistent. He hadn't thought about her in months, perhaps even years. But tonight, amidst all the grandeur, memories of her surged back. He could almost picture her, standing in their tiny apartment, hair tied in a messy bun, wearing one of his old Rutgers sweatshirts, balancing a steaming pot of spaghetti in one hand and a business strategy book in the other. She had been his rock during those early days when success felt like a distant dream, and every dollar counted. She believed in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. Yet, belief alone hadn't been enough. Not for him. As his company flourished, Daniel became consumed by ambition. The life they had built together began to feel too small, too ordinary. Enter Evelyn, polished and perfect for the world he aspired to conquer. He had convinced himself that leaving Sophia was the right decision, that she deserved better. But deep down, he understood the truth. He had outgrown her, or so he had thought. "Daniel!" Evelyn's voice cut through his thoughts, her arm slipping through his. "You look distracted. Everything all right?" "Of course," he replied, forcing a smile. "Just taking it all in." "Well, don't take too long. The board members from Goldman Sachs want to meet you. They're interested in the expansion plans for next quarter." Daniel nodded, setting down his glass. Evelyn had an uncanny ability to steer him back to the present. Yet tonight, the weight of his choices felt heavier than usual. As they made their way back into the crowd, a server passed by with a tray of desserts. One dish caught his eye, a simple creme brulee, topped with caramelized sugar. It was Sophia's favorite. She used to make it for him every Sunday night. Even during their leanest days, he shook his head, trying to dismiss the thought. But as the evening dragged on, it grew increasingly difficult to ignore the gnawing sensation in his chest. For the first time in years, Daniel began to question whether the life he had built was truly worth the sacrifices he had made. As the evening at the gala continued, Daniel Grant found himself engulfed in a swirling sea of laughter and conversation. But his mind drifted back to memories he had buried deep within. The applause and cheers faded as his thoughts turned inward, back to the early days of his life with Sophia Turner. He remembered their cramped apartment, where dreams were seated amidst the clutter. The walls were adorned with cheap art, and the furniture was a mismatched collection of second-hand pieces. It was in that modest space that they had built a life together, one filled with hope and ambition. Daniel could still hear the sound of Sophia's laughter echoing off those walls, a sound that had once filled him with warmth and comfort. In those days, they were inseparable partners, working side by side as they chased their dreams. Sophia had been the one who encouraged him to pursue his passion for technology, believing in his potential long before the world took notice. He had often found her sitting at their rickety kitchen table, surrounded by textbooks and sketches, her brow furrowed in concentration as she juggled her own goals alongside his. "Daniel, you can do this," she would say, her voice steady and unwavering. "You have the talent. Just give it time." Her faith in him had been a beacon, guiding him through moments of self-doubt and uncertainty. But as the successes began to accumulate and his ambitions expanded, Daniel's focus shifted. The once tight bond they shared began to fray under the weight of his growing aspirations. The late nights spent coding and strategizing turned into weekends filled with meetings and networking events. Sophia, who had once been his greatest ally, was slowly pushed to the margins of his life, her dreams overshadowed by his relentless pursuit of success. He recalled the night he had made the decision to leave. They had sat on the couch, a bottle of cheap wine between them, discussing the future. Sophia had looked at him with those hopeful, trusting eyes, and he felt a pang of guilt as he uttered the words that would change everything. "I think I need to move on. Sophia, I want more than this life can offer." Her expression had transformed in an instant, confusion giving way to heartbreak. "More? What about us? What about our dreams?" she had asked, her voice trembling. But he had convinced himself that it was for the best, that she deserved someone who could give her the life she wanted, a life he no longer felt capable of providing. The memory of her tears haunted him. Daniel had walked away that night, believing he was making the right choice. He had stepped into a world filled with luxury and prestige, a world where he no longer had to struggle for every inch of progress. Yet, as he stood at the bar of the gala, surrounded by the glittering success he had built, he felt an emptiness that no amount of wealth could fill. With each passing moment, he wrestled with his regrets, the realization that he had sacrificed not just his marriage but a part of himself. In his quest for more, he had lost sight of what truly mattered. The laughter and applause of the gala fell hollow against the backdrop of those memories, a stark reminder of the price he had paid for his ambition. And then, just as the weight of his thoughts threatened to drown him, he caught sight of Evelyn across the room, effortlessly charming a group of investors. She was beautiful and poised, the perfect partner for the life he had chosen. Yet Daniel felt a pang of longing for simplicity and authenticity of his past. The evening wore on, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was missing from his life. He glanced at the crowd, searching for a familiar face, hoping for a glimpse of the woman who had once believed in him wholeheartedly. But as the night progressed, he was reminded that the past was a distant echo, one that could never truly be reclaimed. Just then, a fleeting thought crossed his mind. Was it too late to make amends? Could he ever find a way to bridge the chasm he had created? The questions lingered as he raised his glass, toasting to another successful year. But deep inside, he knew that the real celebration would come when he could finally confront the choices that had shaped his life. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away in Chicago, Sophia Turner settled into a comforting routine, nurturing her 5-year-old son, Alex, while building her fashion brand, Evergreen Designs. Their small apartment in the South Loop was modest, yet it exuded warmth and a sense of home. Wooden floors creaked beneath her feet, and the scent of lavender and cedar wafted through the air, thanks to the candles she lit each evening after tucking Alex into bed. Sophia had poured her heart and soul into her work, and after years of hard labor, she was finally gaining traction in the competitive world of sustainable fashion. Each order she filled represented not just a business transaction, but a testament to her resilience and determination to forge her own path. She had transformed her passion into a thriving brand, one that championed eco-friendly materials and ethical production practices. Yet, as she sat at her small oak desk, surrounded by fabric swatches and sketches, a flicker of doubt occasionally crept in. There were moments when she would catch herself reminiscing about Daniel, the man she had once loved with all her heart. Memories of their life together would surface uninvited, often accompanied by a bittersweet ache that reminded her of what she had lost. "Mommy, will Daddy ever visit us?" Alex's innocent question jolted her from her thoughts one evening as she tucked him into bed. His big brown eyes searched her face, filled with a mixture of hope and confusion. Sophia's heart clenched, but she maintained her composure. "Maybe someday, sweetheart," she replied gently, brushing a wayward curl from his forehead. "But for now, you've got me and I've got you. That's all we need." As she turned off the bedside lamp and retreated to the living room, the weight of her words lingered in the air. She loved Alex fiercely and was determined to provide him with a stable, nurturing environment. Every fabric she cut, every design she crafted, was done with the intention of building a secure future for him. Yet, the thought of Daniel, his absence, often cast a shadow over her achievements. Later that night, Sophia found herself at her desk, the glow of the desk lamp illuminating the sketches spread before her. She was diligently working on her next collection, but her mind wandered as she glanced at a letter lying at the edge of her workspace. The return address read Tech Innovators Foundation, New York City, a name that sparked a flicker of recognition. Curiosity piqued. She picked up the envelope, turning it over in her hands. It had arrived earlier that day, hidden among the usual pile of bills and advertisements. Something about the sharp, clean font and the faint scent of cologne that wafted from the paper unsettled her. With a deep breath, she slid her finger under the seal, breaking it open. "Dear Miss Turner," the letter began, and as she read, disbelief washed over her. "We are pleased to inform you that your company, Evergreen Designs, has been nominated for the Rising Innovator Award at this year's Tech Innovators Gala in New York City." Pride surged within her, mingling with a twinge of anxiety. This was a monumental achievement, a recognition of her hard work and dedication to sustainable fashion. But the invitation also came with its own set of challenges. The gala would be held in the same city she had left behind, the same city where Daniel now thrived. Sophia hesitated, her heart racing at the thought of stepping back into that world, one filled with memories and emotions she had worked so hard to move past. The prospect of walking into a room full of people who might recognize her as Daniel Grant's ex-wife brought a wave of unease. She had spent years redefining herself, and the thought of facing her past felt daunting. As she contemplated the invitation, her mind drifted to Alex, to their life together. She had fought tirelessly to cultivate this new identity, to become someone who was not defined by her history with Daniel. Did she truly want to risk everything for a single night? Just as doubt threatened to consume her, a soft whimper from Alex's room broke her reverie. She stood up, her slippers whispering against the hardwood floor as she made her way to his door. Inside, she found her son curled under his quilt, his cherubic face peaceful in sleep. "Mommy," he murmured, eyes fluttering open as she knelt beside him. "I had a bad dream." "What happened, sweetheart?" she asked softly, her heart swelling with compassion. "I dreamed that you went away and didn't come back," he replied, tears glistening in his eyes. Her chest tightened at his words, the unspoken weight of his fears settling heavily on her. She gently brushed her fingers through his hair, comforting him. "I'm not going anywhere, Alex. You're stuck with me, little man," she promised, pulling the quilt snugly around him. After settling him back to sleep, Sophia returned to her desk, the invitation still sitting heavily in her thoughts. She felt torn. Part of her wanted to throw it away, to cling to the safe, steady life she had built. Yet another part, the one that had driven her to start Evergreen Designs and fight for a better future, knew she couldn't ignore this opportunity. With a newfound resolve, she reached for her phone and dialed her best friend, Cassie. "Hi, Cassie," she said when her friend picked up. "Sophia, it's late. What's going on?" Cassie's voice was warm, filled with concern. I got an invitation, Sophia replied, her heart racing. To the Tech Innovators Gala? Cassie asked, her excitement palpable. Yeah, but it's in New York, Sophia said, her voice quieter now. Cassie's tone shifted, understanding the weight of the situation. Ah, Daniel territory. Sophia let out a shaky laugh, the truth of it hanging in the air between them. I don't know, Cass. Part of me feels like it's not worth it. I've moved on, and this feels like opening a door I worked so hard to close. But what if it's not about the door? Cassie countered gently. What if it's about showing the world and yourself that you've built something incredible? You don't need Daniel or anyone else to validate that. You've done this on your own. Her friend's words resonated deeply, settling into Sophia's heart like a quiet truth. She glanced at the stack of designs on her desk, at the life she had painstakingly built piece by piece. Maybe Cassie was right. Perhaps this wasn't about the past at all. As the city lights twinkled outside her window, Sophia felt a shift within her. She was ready to embrace whatever came next, both the challenges and the accolades. It was time to step into the light, to claim her place in the world she had fought so hard to create. The night of the gala arrived, and the air was thick with anticipation as Sophia Turner stood before the mirror in her hotel room. The emerald green gown she had chosen draped elegantly around her, its flowing fabric accentuating her every curve. It was understated yet sophisticated, a perfect reflection of the woman she had become after years of struggle and self-discovery. As she adjusted the neckline, she caught a glimpse of herself, a woman who had fought for her identity and found strength in her independence. With a final look at her reflection, she felt a rush of nerves mixed with determination. Tonight wasn't just about the Rising Innovator Award. It was a chance to celebrate her journey and the life she had built for herself and Alex. But the thought of being in the same space as Daniel, her ex-husband, sent a ripple of anxiety through her. She hadn't seen him since their divorce, and the prospect of facing him in a room full of people was daunting. After making sure Alex was settled with a babysitter, a kind woman named Clara, Sophia left the hotel room, her heart pounding in her chest. The cab ride to the Plaza Hotel felt surreal. As the city whizzed by, she focused on her breathing, reminding herself of the hard work that had led her here. She was not just Daniel's ex-wife. She was Sophia Turner, the founder of Evergreen Designs, a brand recognized for a commitment to sustainability and ethical fashion. Upon arriving at the plaza, the grandeur of the venue took her breath away. The lobby was bustling with elegantly dressed guests, laughter echoing off the marble floors, and the shimmering chandeliers cast a warm glow over the crowd. Sophia stepped inside, feeling the weight of expectations settle upon her shoulders. She had to navigate this world, her past intertwined with her present, without losing sight of her accomplishments. As she entered the grand ballroom, her name resonated with significance. The space was filled with the elite of the tech industry, and the atmosphere was electric with energy. The sound of clinking glasses and lively conversations enveloped her as she moved further into the room. She felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation, her pulse quickening as she scanned the crowd for familiar faces. Suddenly, she spotted him, Daniel Grant, standing near the bar, a glass of whiskey in hand, engaging in conversation with a group of well-dressed men. He was striking, clad in a sleek black tuxedo that accentuated his tall frame. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Memories flooded back, uninvited, moments of laughter, shared dreams, and painful goodbyes. But as she took a deep breath, she reminded herself that she was here to celebrate her achievements, not to dwell on the past. Just then, a voice broke her reverie. Ms. Turner, a man approached her, his smile warm and inviting. It was Jonathan Pierce, the CEO of a major retail chain and one of the keynote speakers for the evening. Mr. Pierce, it's an honor to meet you, Sophia replied, extending her hand. They exchanged pleasantries, and she felt a surge of confidence as they discussed her work with Evergreen Designs. His genuine interest in her journey provided her with a sense of validation, a reminder that she had earned her place in this world. Despite her focus on the conversation, Sophia could feel Daniel's gaze lingering on her from a distance. It was an unsettling sensation, stirring emotion she thought she had buried. As she spoke with Jonathan, she noticed Daniel move closer, his expression unreadable. Before she could process her feelings, Evelyn Harper appeared at Daniel's side, her presence commanding as she glanced at Sophia with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "And who is this?" Evelyn asked, her tone polite, yet edged with an underlying tension. "This is Sophia Turner," Daniel replied, his voice steady. "She's one of the nominees tonight." Sophia straightened, meeting Evelyn's gaze directly. "Pleasure to meet you, Evelyn. I've heard a lot about you." The words felt like a small victory, a reminder that she was no longer defined by her past. Evelyn's smile was tight, and she acknowledged Sophia with a nod. "I see. Daniel has mentioned your work. It's impressive." The exchange was brief but charged, each woman aware of the weight of the history that lay between them. As the crowd began to shift, signaling the start of the award ceremony, Sophia felt a surge of nerves. The host took the stage, and the room quieted, anticipation hanging in the air. "Tonight, we will recognize the individuals who are shaping the future of innovation," he announced. Sophia's heart raced as the nominees were called, her breath catching when she heard her name. "And the Rising Innovator Award goes to Sophia Turner of Evergreen Designs." Applause erupted, and the moment felt surreal as she stood to make her way to the stage. The cheers resonated around her, but all she could focus on was the journey that had led her to this moment. Stepping onto the stage, she accepted the award, a clear glass trophy that sparkled under the lights. "Thank you," she began, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotion swirling inside her. "This recognition means more than I can express." Evergreen Designs was born out of belief that fashion could be a force of good, sustainable, ethical, and impactful. As she spoke, Sophia felt the weight of her journey wash over her, the struggles, the triumphs, and the unwavering love for her son. This moment was hers, and she was ready to claim it. She concluded her speech to rousing applause, the energy in the room invigorating her spirit. Returning to the crowd, she felt both exhilarated and vulnerable. She had faced her past, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of closure. But as the evening continued, she couldn't shake the feeling that the true test was still ahead, facing Daniel and addressing the unresolved feelings that lingered between them. As the evening unfolded, Sophia found herself navigating a lavish gala with a mix of triumph and unease. She had just given her speech, received the Rising Innovator Award, and felt a swell of pride. Yet the presence of Daniel Grant loomed over her, a shadow of their shared past that she couldn't entirely shake off. After the ceremony, Sophia stepped outside onto the balcony, grateful for a moment of fresh air. The city skyline glimmered against the night sky, a tapestry of lights that felt both familiar and foreign. She leaned against the railing, allowing the cool breeze to wash over her, calming the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. As she gazed out at the view, she replayed her speech in her mind, the words she had spoken echoing back to her. This recognition was a testament to her hard work, a validation of her journey, one that had not only been about building a business, but also about reclaiming her identity. Yet, the exhilaration of the moment was tempered by the reality of her past with Daniel, the man who had once been her everything, but had become a distant memory filled with pain. Just as she was lost in thought, she heard footsteps behind her. Turning, she found Daniel standing there, his expression a mixture of hesitation and resolve. "Sophia," he said softly, his voice breaking the silence. "Daniel," she replied, her heart racing. The moment felt charged, the air thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. For a brief second, they stood there, the sound of the gala muted behind them, both acutely aware of the distance that had grown between them over the years. "Congratulations on the award," he said, sincerity etched in his features. "You deserve it." "Thank you," she responded, her tone measured. "It means a lot to me, especially given everything I've been through." Daniel nodded, a flicker of regret passing across his face. "I've seen your work, Sophia. It's impressive. I didn't realize how much you've accomplished." Her chest tightened at his words. She had spent years building this life, and hearing him acknowledge it made her heart ache in ways she hadn't anticipated. "I've worked hard to get here," she replied, her voice unwavering. "I didn't need you to validate that." "I know," he said, his gaze steady. I've thought a lot about our past, the choices I made, the way I hurt you. I can't change what happened, but I want you to know that I regret it. Sophia felt a swell of emotions. The pain of their history clashed with the relief of his acknowledgement. Regret doesn't erase the past, Daniel, she said firmly, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. What you did changed everything for me. I understand, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. But I want to be part of Alex's life if you allow it. I want to make amends, not just for me, but for him. Sophia's heart raced at the mention of their son. Being part of his life isn't just something you can decide, Daniel, she said, her tone sharp. It's something you have to earn. It's not about what you want. It's about what's best for him. Daniel nodded, his expression serious. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, he said earnestly. I know I've made mistakes, but I want to be there for both of you. The weight of his words hung in the air between them. Sophia felt torn. She had fought so hard to carve out a life for herself and Alex, one where they could thrive without the shadow of Daniel's choices looming over them. But the sincerity in his eyes stirred something deep within her, a flicker of hope that perhaps, just maybe, they could find a way forward. Before she could respond, the sound of applause erupted from inside the ballroom, pulling them both back to the present. The moment felt suspended in time, a fragile bridge connecting their past to an uncertain future. I need to go back in, Sophia said finally, her voice steady. I have to focus on the journey ahead. Daniel stepped back, giving her space. I understand, he said, his voice softening. Just know that I'm here, and I'm ready to make things right. As she turned to walk back into the gala, Sophia felt a mix of emotions swirling within her. She had confronted Daniel, addressed the past, and stood firm in her convictions. But as she re-entered the ballroom, the applause ringing in her ears, she couldn't help but wonder what the future held for her and Alex, and whether Daniel would truly be a part of it. The evening continued, filled with laughter and celebration, but for Sophia, it marked the beginning of a new chapter. She was no longer just Daniel Grant's ex-wife. She was a mother, a businesswoman, and a woman who had reclaimed her life. The road ahead would be challenging, but she was ready to embrace it, no matter where it would lead.